Good evening, everyone. Regular meeting of the City Council is being held in person today, Thursday, June 12, 2025, at 7 p.m. for the purpose of transacting any and all business. Notice of this meeting was posted on June 10, 2025, at 6:24 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and is live on SATV and Zoom unless technological issues interrupt the transmission. Council is absent, and it's Councilor Harvey. Councilor Hapworth moves to dispense with the reading of the record of the previous meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilor Varela.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Salem City Council honors that this land is Nomkeg, or fishing place, where generations of Nomkeg people from the Pawtucket Band of the Massachusetts tribe lived and passed through for centuries. We acknowledge that this is unceded indigenous land, and also acknowledge that the Massachusetts tribe who continue to honor and hold this land into the present. Salem City Council is committed to having ongoing meaningful dialogue with the indigenous peoples who have presence in Salem in order to dismantle the legacies of oppression and inequities that persist today. Public testimony. Public testimony is not to exceed 15 minutes. It is not a public hearing, question or answer period. Sign-up must occur 30 minutes prior to the meeting. President shall, depending on the number of speakers, set a time limit not to exceed 3 minutes. Tonight, we do have 2 speakers, so each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. And our first speaker is Caitlin Halapa. Would you please go to the podium? Thank you.
Thank you, President Presnewski. Caitlin Halapa, 70 Boston Street. I promise I'm not going to speak for 3 minutes tonight. I just wanted to say thank you to you all for all the hard work on the budget, passing that. I know it's a lot this time of year with that and everything else going on, so thank you. And the other thing I was going to mention is just about the, I'm blanking out, the condo conversion ordinance. I almost said no camping. The condo conversion ordinance. I hope just everyone recognizes how important it is to get that passed sooner rather than later. The longer that it waits, the longer that real people are going to be impacted by it. Ordinances don't have to be right the first time. You amend ordinances all the time. So just please keep that in mind, and let's get things moving forward to help people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Peter Vallis.
City Council, I am Peter Vallis, spelled with one I in my last name to correct a Scrivener's error. Okay. I request to have Lot 7, Tinker's Island, be reassessed and reinstated on the city tax roll to allow this petitioner to be the sole tax bill recipient of this lot, as was done from 1984 to 2010. From 2011 to present, no one has been assessed to pay taxes on Lot 7, also known as parcel 47-0001-907. See the 2009 municipal lien certificate included in my petition as an exhibit to prove my standing during that period. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony. Hearings none. Appointments and reappointments, Madam Clerk.
We have held from the last meeting the mayor's reappointment of the following with terms to expire. Darlene Millis to the Tree Commission, Ariana Lemus Driscoll to the Beautification Committee, Mandy Spittle and David Moisen to the Commission on Disabilities.
Council Varela.
Thank you, President Presniewski. I move for confirmation by roll call vote.
Council Varela moves confirmation by roll call vote. On the discussion.
Thank you, Councilor Presniewski. I'll be brief. Just want to thank all for reappointments here. They've been long-serving to the city here, and appreciate what they do for us. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Watson-Felt?
Yes.
Counselor Varela?
Yes.
Counselor Stott?
Yes.
Counselor Marcillo?
Yes.
Counselor Merkel?
Yes.
Counselor Jerslow?
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth?
Yes.
Counselor Davis?
Yes.
Counselor Cohen?
Yes.
And Counselor Presniewski.
Yes. On the mayor's appointment of the aforementioned individuals, we have 10 in the favor, none in the nays, and 1 absent. Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's appointment of Carolyn Evans of 18 Sutton Avenue to the Licensing Board with a term to expire June 11th, 2031.
Councilor Jerslow.
Thank you, President Presniewski. I move that this be held under the rules.
Councilor Jerslow moves that this matter be held under the rules under discussion.
No discussion at this time.
No discussion at this time. On Councilor Jerslow's motion that it be held under the rules, all those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's appointment of Jessica Choi of 33 Hazel Street to the Tree Commission with a term to expire June 11th, 2028.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. I move that this is held under the rules.
Councilor Cohen moves it to be held under the rules. Any discussion?
Yeah, I can't wait for us to vote for Jessica in 2 weeks. She's a landscape architect. She volunteers at Coast Watch, and she actually has a community garden in Palmer Cove Park, and she's going to be a tremendous addition to the Tree Commission.
Any further discussion? Seeing none on Councilor Cohen's motion that this be held under the rules, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have Robert Callahan to the Park and Recreation Commission and Thomas Fury to the Planning Board.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Presniewski. I move this be held under the rules.
Councilor Varela moves that this be held under the rules under discussion.
No discussion.
Councilor Varela moves that the appointments of Robert Callahan and Thomas Fury, two well-known Salem people, be held under the rules. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's reappointment of Brian Davis of 21 Oakhurst Ave, Ipswich, to serve as a constable with a term to expire June 11th, 2028.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Presniewski. I move that this be received and filed.
Councilor Varela moves that it be received and filed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Moves to go out of order to page 25. Sorry, Maureen.
Councilor Hapworth moves that we go to page 25. Seeing no objection. Councilor Hapworth.
We're going to the final item on page 25. I'm still getting there. Second to last item, sorry, not the adjournment. I guess you would just say unfinished business.
Yes. That would be under unfinished business. Councilor Varela. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry. The second to last one, the condo conversion, sorry.
Madam Clerk.
We have a second passage for an ordinance relative to condominium conversions.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote, but also ask that this go under discussion.
Councilor Hapworth moves for adoption for second passage by roll call vote. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the rules to allow Ms. Stewart to speak and address the council.
Seeing no objection.
Good evening. You have all received a communication from the mayor regarding an amendment to the section in the Condominium Conversion Act that relates to relocation payments. Language was added at the last OLA meeting, and afterwards, I got concerned, and I spoke with the people in Boston and Somerville regarding how they make their relocation payments. My initial concern was that the language that existed in the ordinance already allowed for payments to be made prior to the move date. And then language was added stipulating that payments be made 15 days prior to the move date and 10 days following the move date. That is something that I think is an administrative challenge, and I've spoken to a few of you. The concerns that were raised is that the tenants will not have a right to the relocation payments unless that language is in there. And there is already language in the section that says that the owner of the building shall make the payments if requested by the tenants prior to the move date. The amendment will create a documentation and administrative severe challenge. And since this ordinance is hopefully just getting off the ground, I'd like to have it go back to the original, because it'll give me, or whoever eventually is working on this ordinance, a chance to do the work without trying to document two mandatory payments. So that's basically what the mayor's asking, and I'm asking that we revert back to the original language.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry, I should have added this clarity at the start, just for those listening at home and for the rest of us here. The original language inside the ordinance stated relocation benefits shall be paid to the tenant within 10 days after the date which the tenant vacates the unit. The committee adopted amended language that stated within 50% within 15 days prior to moving date and 50% within 10 days after. So the council or the committee voted to stipulate when those payments should be made, and that was adopted for first passage by the council at the last meeting. And the request here from the city, and if there's an amendment to be made, would be to go back to the original language, which is relocation benefits shall be paid to the tenant within 10 days after the date which the tenant vacates the unit. But we would need a motion to adopt that.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I motion to strike the language requiring the 50% of the relocation benefit to be paid to tenants 15 days prior. And as Councilor Hepworth stated, it would go back to the original language of the tenant would receive the relocation benefit within 10 days after of which the tenant vacates the unit. And what resonates with me is when I read the original language that we'd go back to, it states, in recognition of the fact that many relocation costs must be paid in whole or in part before a tenant actually moves out, the owner shall mandates it, upon request of the tenant, make payments up to the amount authorized in this section directly to a moving company, a realtor, a storage facility, or a successor landlord prior to the date on which they vacate the premises. And I offer this in the spirit of deferring to the expertise here of our Housing Stability Coordinator, who worked with the city's solicitor on this to get this passed. I do respect the intent of the 15-day prior payment, absolutely. But what resonates with me is it does, as Ms. Stewart said, affect the flexibility in helping tenants. And most importantly, the Housing Stability Coordinator has the power to deny a permit or revoke a permit, and there are fines for violations. And as it says, the owner shall, upon request of the tenant, make payments, directly to a moving company, a realtor, or a storage facility. So there is a mechanism to get assistance before they actually move out. And there is, as I said, the language that there is an authority in place here, and I wouldn't want to sacrifice that flexibility that the Housing Stability Coordinator has to assist residents. And I also offer in the spirit of making the most workable document possible for all the parties involved. For all of them, because of the logistical challenges in trying to track a move-out date, which can be fluid. So I do think that I want to defer again to the expertise of the work that went into this, and I offer that amendment. Thank you.
Councilor Marcello.
I will second that motion.
I'm still in the discussion. Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. Through you to Ms. Stewart. Under the ordinance, when do you think the first payments would be due to the first tenant?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Under the ordinance as written, when it goes into effect, when would the first payments be due as relocation payments to the first tenant?
I have no idea. I'm sorry, that's just not.
We haven't, but it's based on notice, right?
I'm not understanding the question.
Okay, so the ordinance says that the landlord has to provide notice, and more notice if it's a protected party. And so a lot of these payments are not going to be due for an extended period of time. Second of all, we do not write laws based on what we can do, but what we should do. For example, this body has on several occasions revised the short-term rental ordinance, and yet we still don't enforce it 100%. We're about to double the fines on sidewalk clearing. Pretty sure that won't be enforced 100%. A couple of years ago, we changed the whole way we inspect apartments. From when a tenancy changes to every apartment needs to be re-inspected for a certificate of fitness every 3 years. We are a long way from that. So even though we can't do these 100%, we still write the law to get to that point. Also, I'm just making comments now. Thank you. I believe this is about tenant protections. This ordinance, which was written several years ago originally, and then we waited 3 years to get approval back from the legislature, there's several components. One is there's first refusal. That's hardly ever going to happen. Another is that there's a look back. Hopefully that will happen. That's going to take a lot of documentation and work. And then we're given notice, which is great. But in most cases, most of the tenants who reside in the apartments they live in now are going to have to move. And although it's really great that they can request, and that can be enforced, if the tenant requests, the landlord shall make the payment early. However, The tenant has to know about it. And we've been talking in several meetings about several different subjects about how difficult it is to make sure people are aware of what's going on. And I don't believe that a lot of landlords, either because they just aren't great landlords or just because they don't feel like they have to, will make these payments. One of the things that the mayor said in the letter is that these are arbitrary dates. Every lease that any tenant has a pay date. It could be the 1st or the 15th or the 23rd or whatever. Those are arbitrary dates. There's a lot of misconceptions. Landlords constantly tell their tenants that they have a 5-day grace period. In Massachusetts, it's a 30-day grace period before they might have to pay a fee or a fine. So I'm not going to vote for this to go back to the original. I'm retiring at the end of the year. And I'd be more than happy to spend 9 or 12 hours a week helping you or anyone else in the position to get through whatever work is needed to make this component work. I actually think this is the most important component because I think we talked about it, that many tenants are going to have to come up with $8,000 to $12,000, maybe more in some cases, regarding things like cost of moving or storage or anything else. And I think having a few $1,000s before they move out that is mandated really makes a big difference. Thank you.
Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, President. I will be voting in favor of this, and the reason is that our housing specialists have said that this makes it too prescriptive for everyone involved, not just their office, but for the tenants as well. At the meeting when this was brought up as an amendment, I should have turned around and asked our housing specialists who were in the room for their opinion. And I own that. I didn't ask for their opinion at the time, and I should have done that. I also didn't realize at that time that Councilor Cohen, when he brought this up, had already spoken with them and that they had already told him that they didn't agree with this amendment. I feel like we have specialists in the city. We have model ordinances that we're basing this on in other communities, Cambridge Cambridge and Boston, Somerville, and they're not doing this, right? We made amendments, we made changes based on what someone from Boston said they found was a loophole. This was not a loophole that they found. They have found that this works, that they have the ability to get money to tenants early if they need it. And I feel like that, if they need it 30 days in advance, they could get it 30 days in advance, but this will set it to 15 days in advance. So it seems like the ordinance is already written in a way that it is flexible. It's flexible through the housing office as they're processing all of these. The difference between the sidewalk, those are all great examples of how we don't necessarily enforce stuff. But in this case, you can't get your occupancy permit until everything is done, right? You can't change it over to a condo until that tenant is satisfied according to this ordinance. And so there are guardrails to make sure that those tenants are treated fairly. And no one is trying to treat the tenants fairly. That is the whole point of this. This is a tenant protection ordinance. I just don't want to go too far overboard in the first year. If we find that there are issues with tenants getting money in a timely manner, we can go back and make changes. But we don't know that yet, and there is no data from the other communities that points to this as a problem. So that's why I will be voting to remove that one amendment.
Councilor Aperth.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through you to Lori. So to get at the question that was asked earlier, and I think the crux of what we're talking about here, is it your view that when we look at the language here, the language says, in recognition of the fact that many relocation costs must be paid in whole or in part before the tenant actually moves out, the owner shall, upon the request of the tenant, make payments up to the amount authorized by this section directly to a moving company, realtor, storage facility, or successor landlord. Is it your view that that language would give you the flexibility you would need to get tenants what they need before they move out?
Absolutely. And I just wanted to respond to a question that Councilor Cohen asked me because I just realized what I think he was trying to ask me. I can't say for certain when the first payments will have to be made because it's not law yet. But once it is law, it could happen quickly. It could. If people give their tenants the notification. By the way, the tenant notification that everybody will be getting has to be in the tenant's primary language. We will be translating the tenant notification form into Spanish and into Portuguese, and the landlords will have to translate any other language. And on that tenant notification form, it states very clearly what their rights are, and that if they're feeling that their rights are violated, they can request a hearing with the municipal hearing officer at any time. And just to repeat, there are guardrails in the ordinance. I have the power, if the landlord doesn't obey the shall, I have the power to deny a permit, revoke a permit, and there are fines of $1,000 per unit per violation.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you. Just to continue on the question / statement, I guess I would share the view that I think as a council, I think we give a broad policy directive. This is what we want to have done. This is our objective here, and we work on the language, but we work hand in hand with our city officials who have to enforce that and implement it. And I don't completely, I think we're all on the same page of what we want to have happen here, and I have to defer to our city employees who will be implementing this, and not to assume that I personally have more understanding of the way this could or should be implemented unless we see something different. I think that from what I understand here, from what I look at in the language here, I think this gives us the flexibility to get tenants what they need without putting undue administrative burdens on the city and potentially on tenants who may have different needs with different timetables. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. Two things. I can read the room, and pretty sure this amendment to the amendment will go through. But I do want to say that I think my conversations, if you don't mind, through you to Lori Stewart, our conversations were not just about this. And even though you made clear, as I did, our views on this component, you and I had many meetings about messaging and how to frame this and the value of it and how to talk about it. And I'm very appreciative of all the meetings and all the time that we had together. I don't want this to be a burden on the city. I just wanted this to be as much of a tenant protection as possible.
Councilor Weisenfeld.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I find myself conflicted on this item for similar reasons Councilor Cohen has outlined. The way that the ordinance is written, if we were to revert to original language, actually restricts any payment for relocation to direct-to-vendor payment processes. And there's nowhere in here that a tenant who may have a cash flow problem gets any cash to help with any of the expenses of moving that are not inclusive of those outlined here, being storage and moving companies and the like. So for my part, when I voted for this amendment in our committee of the whole conversation, or when I was in support of this in the committee of the whole conversation, it was in part because there's otherwise no vehicle for flexible planning, spending, saving upfront for those costs outside of direct-to-vendor payment 10 days after the fact at a minimum. The way I interpret the 15-day requirement is twofold. So, and perhaps it's maybe it's the lack of a single word, which is at minimum, right? So at minimum 15 days before the move, there should be some flexible cash spending flow to a tenant who needs to buy boxes or replace, damaged things that don't fit in their new apartment or whatever the case may be. And I struggle with though I respect and appreciate all of the hard work of the housing coordinator and the administrative process of this, the way that the ordinance is outlined with regards to checks throughout the process or at multiple steps in the process, right? There are multiple checks already built in. And I don't personally feel like adding one more step in the business process that already exists, one more check the box moment, feels like a massive administrative burden to me when in the balance of what we could be doing for a tenant. So I agree with the points made by my fellow counselors just with regards to like needing to trust our experts and needing to trust those who are doing the job every day. And I agree wholeheartely with Counselor Russillo's point raised about, you know what, any single one of us could have turned around in that moment and said, wait a second, wait, time out, does this work? Suspend the rules and engage Lori in that conversation. But I'm also sitting here not sure my vote would change, right? So in this specific instance, without additional flexibility in cash flow to a tenant who's living paycheck to paycheck, who are the most vulnerable we're trying to help here, I think I'm probably going to vote against the amendment to the amendment. Thank you.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. I'd like to echo the sentiment of the Ward 2 councilor. I think, being not a property owner here in Salem, this becomes a cash flow issue for tenants and people that rent. This 15 days could be the opportunity and the obligation from them finding housing to secure a payment for a deposit with another rental unit. And I think that's really important. I think that if it comes to an administrative barrier, I think this could be figured out and documented. I just think that the 15 days is something that could be beneficial to the residents that are displaced when it comes to this condo conversion ordinance. So I will not be voting for this amendment. I think that this could be done with what we have as of now. I just don't want to be out of touch with this. As someone that's never owned property and probably never will, like that 15 days is really important for someone to secure a spot, and that payment could be really beneficial to make sure, especially since if residents want to stay here in Salem. Housing stock here and rental stock in Salem is really hard to find. And those 15 days could make or break someone living here or displacing someone in Salem. Thank you.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. I just want to, through you to Lori Stewart, I just want to interpret the original language here as far as assisting with a next rental unit, that it says here, where it says the following exception in recognition of the fact that many relocation costs may be paid in whole or in part. And then it says to the amount authorized in this section directly to a company, a realtor, a storage facility, or a successor landlord. So if I'm understanding that correctly, you can get a payment to a successor landlord. And the 15 days would lock it in to 15 days. So I'm just asking for clarity, as opposed to the flexibility if you wanted it even earlier. But it does allow you the power to generate a payment to a future landlord?
Right. The ordinance before the amendment allowed for payments to be made prior to the move date, and the landlord shall make those payments, or they would be in violation.
Councilor Watson-Feld.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. To be very clear for the public's awareness, this level of flexibility is still baked into the ordinance. We have not removed the flexibility. That is why my comment around the minimum 15 days prior, right? Because if you read the entire red line here, 10 days after the date on which the tenant vacates the unit with the following exception, right, all of that language stands. So really, all we've done is to make a cash flow opportunity prior to move out date as a requirement of this process. That is all this change has done, right? If we want to clean up the language around relocation benefits shall be paid to the tenant within a minimum of 15 days prior to the moving date, I will make that motion tonight. And 50% within 10 days after on which the tenant vacates the unit, right? With the exception of, all of that language about exceptions is still in here. So we can work on discretion, to the discretion of the house. We can do whatever we want, right? There's other ways to slice this pie. But to be clear, my point was not about payment to a future landlord. That is baked in here clearly, right? In fact, that's a restriction. That is one of the listed restrictions, that the funds would go directly to those places. But there is, as I said before, there is no access to any cash benefit prior to the activity of evacuating your home and moving into a new home that is flexible spending available to you for other moving-related expenses that are not outlined here in this restriction. Every single restriction listed here is a direct-to-vendor payment. There is no direct-to-tenant payment without the amendment that this group all agreed on and already voted on for first passage. So again, I just want to reiterate, my deepest respect to your process, deepest respect to all you do. You know I'm a huge fan. But the more I sit here and think about it, and the more I sit here and riddle it in my own brain, if we take this back out again, the tenant gets absolutely hands on nothing directly until 10 days, perhaps earlier, but by law, 10 days after their move-out date. So, in fact, yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Councilor Merkel made a motion that was seconded by Councilor Marcello to strike a sentence or two. Councilor Merkel, would you repeat exactly what you're looking to strike, so that we know what we're voting on?
Yes, it was the language requiring 50% of the relocation benefits to be paid to tenants 15 days prior to their moving date.
I request a roll call vote.
Second.
On Councilor Merkel's motion to strike the language as stated, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Council Watson-Felt?
No.
Council Varela?
No.
Council Stott?
Yes.
Council Mosillo?
Yes.
Council Merkel?
Yes.
Council Jerslow?
Yes.
Council Hapworth?
Yes.
Council Davis?
No.
Council Cohen?
No.
Council Prosnewski?
No. On Councilor Merkel's motion that the amendment strike the language of the 15-day period. We have 5 in the affirmative, 5 negative, and 1 absent. The motion does not carry. Councilor Merkel, would you like to make a motion for second passage of this? Because that was only the amendment. Okay. So all those, again, we're going to do the roll call vote. For the second, Councilor Watson-Feld.
Could we continue under discussion, or can we have, because the motion's on the floor.
Right, and everybody's had a chance at least twice to talk.
Well,
You have a choice. You can put it back in committee if you want to discuss it further, but all.
That was on the amendment.
On the second passage as written.
Yes.
That's correct. So, on Councilor Hapworth's motion for adoption for second passage of this under discussion, Councilor Watson-Feld.
Thank you. When I was riddling my comments previous on the motion in front of us, I raised the thought that I would enjoy hearing from my colleagues on about, before I make a motion, about inserting the word minimum prior to the 15 days, just to give that additional flexibility that was of concern to the housing coordinator. We could suspend the rules and hear her thoughts on that as well, but I would be looking to, before we pass this, if there is one more thing we should do responsibly, then I wanted to open the floor and ask my colleagues for their thoughts.
Any further discussion? Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. See, this is where we're getting into wordsmithing that should happen in committee, in my opinion, because in my mind, the points the points that other counselors are trying to make makes me wonder if it's at least a minimum of 50% that's paid within up to 15 days. Like, I think we need to have a discussion with the housing coordinator about this wording. If this is something that people feel very strongly about, I think this needs to be wordsmithed, and it needs to be wordsmithed with Lori Stewart and with Amanda Ciancola and with Beth Renard in the room to have the discussion that we should have had. That's my opinion.
Councilor Marcillo, you making a motion to send this back to committee?
Yeah, I move to send it back to committee.
I have a second.
Second.
Second. All those in favor of sending this back to committee for clarification? All those in favor?
Do a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Do we have 3 votes?
No, we don't have.
Right. We can do a roll call vote.
Council Watson-Felt.
Yes.
Council Varela.
Sorry for clarification. This is to go back in committee?
Condo conversion.
No.
Yes? I'm sorry. No? Council Starr?
Yes.
Council Marcillo?
Yes.
Council Merkel?
Yes.
Councilor Jerslow?
Yes.
Council Hapworth?
Yes.
Councilor Davis?
Yes.
Councilor Cohen?
Yes.
Council Presnowski?
Yes. On Councilor Marcillo's motion to send this matter back to committee, seconded by Councilor Davis. We have 9 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. Matter passes. Back to committee. Councilor Hapworth?
Thank Thank you, Mr. President. I move to go, first I want to thank you, Lori, and Michael. I want to move to go back in order to page 4.
Going back to page 4, seeing no objection. Communications from the mayor. Madam Clerk.
We have ordered that the sum of $247,957.23 is hereby transferred from the general fund balance reserve for free cash and appropriated to the following account in the capital improvement fund below for the costs associated with the Salem Police Department body worn camera renewal.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I move for suspension of the rules.
Councilor Merkel moves for suspension of the rules, seeing no objection. Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. I move for adoption.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Thank you. I spoke with Captain Ryan about this and also our Finance Director, Anna Friedman, and there is also information in the backup documentation from Chief Miller. This is for the first year of a new 3-year agreement for the body cam program, and the police have been working on the costs after the state and federal grant funding is no longer available, and this is the amount due. The status of the grants, what was in place was the federal grant money was a 3-year startup assistant, and the state was for equipment. So now we do not have grants for what will be the anticipated cost each year for this. This cost, though ongoing after this year, will be put into the police operating budget moving forward, so it would not be coming be a transfer of this nature. And also, the costs are for media storage, licensing. It was interesting how many different licensings are needed for this program, and the enormous amount of storage, software, repairs. So I am requesting that we do approve this. We've certainly all gotten a lot of information how important this has been, how helpful it's been for officers and the public to keep this program going. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Just from my own experience, I think that the public and the police are both looking forward to having as much recorded for transparency purposes. And this goes a long way in putting faith for the community into the police, because it openly opens the book on exactly what happens in certain situations. I know the cost is tremendous, having had to deal with some of it back in the past, wearing a different hat. It's not just the storage end of it, which is very expensive. It's also the fact that everything that is stored is has to be ready for public records and review, and all the requests from attorneys and everybody else that wants copies of that are entitled to copies of a police video cam, body cam. Again, it keeps things transparent. It protects the police and it protects the community. So I do think this is important. So on that note, on Councilor Merkel's a motion to approve the $247,957.23 be transferred from the general fund balance reserved free cash and appropriated to the capital improvement fund for the cameras. All those in favor? All those opposed? The matter carries. Madam Clerk, further communications from the mayor. I'm sorry, we're still into discussion. Councilor Stott.
Oh, no discussion, actually. I was moving on to the next item. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was hoping with respect to employees' time, we also have Ms. Kelleher here for the items on the CPA, and that's at the very end of the agenda. And Ms. Freeman's in for the whole ride tonight, but if we could take another matter out of order I don't have the printed agenda, so I don't know what page it is, but it's city orders, I believe, page 21.
Councilor Stott moves to go out of order to page 21, seeing no objection. Page 21 would be Councilor Merkel. Communications from city officials.
We have ordered that $1,150,552 is hereby appropriated to the CPA funds for fiscal year 2026 to the accounts listed below in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I move for adoption.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption. Under discussion?
Thank you. I want to thank Councilor Stott for having a sharp eye on that and respecting Patty Kelleher's time. And my only discussion is I want to comment that I appreciate the work that's done by the Community Preservation Commission. This is just a great program that does a lot of good.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Councilor Merkel's adoption for $1,150,552 be appropriated to the CPA funds for 2026. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Thank you. Councilor Varela.
I move for immediate reconsideration in hopes it shall not prevail. Why not?
Councilor Varela moves for immediate reconsideration. All those in favor? Matter does not carry. Thank you. No, all noes.
We have one more for.
We have ordered that the $1,063,487.17 is hereby appropriated to the CPA funds for fiscal year 2026 projects listed below in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I move for adoption.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Councilor Merkel's motion, 1 million. Mr. President. I'm sorry. Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have discussion on this one. I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Kelleher and thank you to the CPA. As we go through our budget season, they kind of go through their own entire budget season as well, reviewing applications and appropriating the money that we all pay into with the CPA with our taxes. And it's great to see these projects on here that are receiving money, like the Collins Cove Playground. I know there are a few parents on here that are very excited to see that one. Dixie Chapel restoration, housing projects, etc. And I just want to thank the board, the CPA board, as well as Ms. Kelleher for the efforts and attention that is put into this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Merkel's motion, that $1,063,487.17 be appropriated within the CPA funds of fiscal year 2026 projects listed below. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Councilor Varela.
Thank you. I move for immediate reconsideration in hopes it shall not prevail.
Councilor Varela moves for reconsideration in hopes that it shall not prevail. All those in favor? All those opposed? Opposed. Okay. Thank you. I believe we're going back to page 5. Second matter down. That would, Madam Clerk, are you okay?
We have the order of the sum of $100,000 is hereby appropriated from the retained earnings water sewer fund account to the following account for the fiscal year 2026 cost to a stormwater utility study.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I move to refer this to the Committee on Administration and Finance.
Councilor Merkel moves to refer this to the Committee on Administration and Finance. And the discussion?
Thank you. There is already $50,000 in the budget from last year for this, but it's not enough now based on the recent quotes. And stormwater is paid for in people's sewer bills, which isn't always equitable. And yes, so there are reasons to take a look at this, but I think we all need more information on it.
Any further discussion? Councilor Merkel's motion to move this matter into the Committee on Administration and Finance. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have ordered that the sum of $44,000 is hereby transferred from the general fund balance reserve for free cash and appropriated to the following account in the capital improvement fund below for costs associated with 2 manual swing barrier gates at the main parking lot at Forest River.
Council Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move for suspension of the rules.
Council Merkel moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Council Merkel.
Thank you. I move for adoption.
Council Merkel moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Thank you. This is a public safety-related request from the mayor, and it's also been requested by neighbors, and the police recommended it as well. There used to be gates there, but they didn't hold up, and this will also cut down on evening activity when the park is closed.
Thank you. Being a resident nearby and also a former police officer, that park is frequented at all hours of the night for all kinds of activity, and putting up those gates, I think, are going to make the area quieter and safer because of this. Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Merkel's motion to adopt the sum of $44,000 transferred from the general fund and appropriated to the capital improvement fund for gates at Forest River Park. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order to accept a donation from David Doyle in the amount of $1,200 to the Golf League at Old Salem Greens. These funds will be deposited into Park and Recreation donation account.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move for adoption.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption. On the discussion.
Thank you to Mr. Doyle for his generosity.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Doyle. Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Merkel's motion that this donation be adopted, all those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order to accept a donation from Constellation in the amount of $1,000 for the sponsorship of the Massachusetts Municipal Association meeting to be held in Salem. These funds were deposited into the mayor's office donation account.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. I move for adoption.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption. On the discussion.
No discussion.
On Councilor Merkel's, any further discussion? Councilor Merkel's motion to accept the $1,000 for the sponsorship of the Massachusetts Municipal Associate meeting to be held in Salem. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order to accept a donation from the Castle Hill Home Improvement in the amount of $1,000 to the Golf League at Old Salem Greens. These funds will be deposited into the Park and Recreation donation account.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. I move for adoption.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption. On the discussion.
Thank you to Castle Hill Home Improvement.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Merkel's motion to adopt the $1,000 for golf from the Castle Hill Home Improvement to the Golf League at Old Salem Greens. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Communications from the mayor.
We have an order pursuant to Massachusetts general laws, including without limitation, Chapter 149A, Section 4, the mayor, on behalf of the city of Salem, may submit an application to the Massachusetts Office of the Inspector General for the use of construction management at risk. If approved, enter into a contract with the construction manager at risk for the construction of the new high school.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption.
Councilor Stott moves for adoption. On the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I love to talk about this project, but I will be as quick as I can, knowing that there will be future conversations as well in front of us for updates. But a really brief update on the school building project. At the May 8th meeting, there was an important vote taken. I was taking it back there, actually. That's why I was late for the meeting, where the high school building committee voted on the preferred building design option, as well as this item that's in front of us tonight on the construction delivery method. So the vote for the preferred construction project, they decided on the new construction option. So now they are going down that path of working out the details of what that actually means, can get more closer to actual cost associations. There was a second large item that the building committee had to make a decision on, and that was how to project manage this giant compliant project. Some of us might remember in 2020, we had an item in front of us for the Forest River Park pool reconstruction project that we also had to vote on for Mass General Law, Chapter 149 or 149A. There are two different options. You can either do a design, bid, build method for large construction projects, or you can do construction manager at risk, the CMR. For the Forest River project, Ms. Ide came in, if you recall, and went over the pros and cons of both. They both do have pros and cons. The high school building committee also had 3 meetings where we went over the pros and cons. The finance committee within the high school building committee also had separate meetings to discuss the pros and cons. And on the May 8th meeting, it was a unanimous vote where they all agreed that the construction manager at risk was the preferred method to go for this building project. A few of those reasons are just due to the size, the complexity, the changing costs within projects. It adds a little more flexibility in that regard. And with that, because the mayor will have to go into an agreement for this, that is what requires the council approval for the Mass General Law, Chapter 149, construction manager at risk. So like I said, I will keep this brief, so I will stop there. But if there are any questions, hopefully I can assist. But I think it's pretty straightforward.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor's thoughts, motion to approve the submission of an application to the Massachusetts Order of Inspector General for the use of construction management at risk and enter into a contract with the construction manager for the new high school. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We've in order that the Salem City Council hereby authorize the mayor to execute a grant of easement on behalf of the city of Salem to Massachusetts Electric Company for the purpose of installing and maintaining an underground electric distribution system to service the Lee Fort Terrace development at 1 Lee Fort Terrace.
Councilor Jerzalo.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I move that this be adopted.
Councilor Jerzalo moves for adoption. On the discussion.
This is just to put the underground electrical to Lee Fort Terrace. It won't disrupt any street. It's off the Fort Ave. It's mostly to the right and underground, so it won't be really any disruption.
Any further discussion? On Councilor Jerzalo's motion that we authorize the mayor to execute a grant of easement on behalf of Salem for the Massachusetts Electric Company for the purpose of installing and maintaining an underground electrical distribution system for Lee Fort Terrace. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Mayor's informational page, none. Motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Wassenfeld.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. In the year 2025, an ordinance relative to traffic, Chapter 42, Section 50B, handicap zones limited time, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salem as follows. Section 1, Section 50B, handicap parking space in front of 35 Forester Street for a distance of 20 feet. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by City Charter, and I move adoption, please.
Councilor Wassenfeld moves for adoption. First passage for the handicap zone in front of 35 Forester Street. All those in favor?
Yeah, because it's in
The discussion? No discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025. Ordered, whereas the City Ordinance, Chapter 2, Section 210, use of City Council chambers, provides that no person shall use City Council chambers in City Council Subcommittee anteroom in the City Hall without permission of the City Hall Council. And whereas Section 210 further provides that this authority may be delegated to the City Clerk. Now, therefore, the City of Salem hereby delegates that authority to grant permission for the use of City Council chambers and City Council Subcommittee anteroom in the City Hall to the City Clerk after consultation and approval by the City Council President. And I move this to refer to Government Services, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole.
Councilor Varela moves that this be moved to the Committee of Government Services. Any further discussion? Councilor Varela?
Thank you, President Prosnewski. After thoughtfully thinking about this. We do have a few orders in concerning this, and we still need to come up with a policy. I really believe that this warrants a conversation, and I look forward to having a meeting sooner than later about this. I just think that it's the will of the body. We should all weigh in on how we do this instead of just passing an order tonight.
Any further discussion? On Council Varela's motion that this matter be moved to Government Services. All those in favor? I'll post it with the Committee of the Whole. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Council Varela.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, ordered that the City Council hereby requests that the City Solicitor prepare a Home Rule petition requesting authorization of the Massachusetts Legislature to amend the city charter to provide for ranked choice voting in local elections. Ranked choice voting is a system whereby voters rank candidates in order for preference. If no candidate secures the majority of first choice votes, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and therefore the votes are redistributed based on the next preferences indicated on those ballots. This process continues until a candidate achieves a majority. In the draft Home Rule petition, RCV Home Rule petition is approved by City Council and subsequently approved by the state legislature, Salem voters will then decide whether to adopt RCV through a ballot measure.
Move for adoption.
And I move for adoption. Thank you.
Council Varela moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. So we have discussed this. I did have a meeting with our city solicitor about this. I think it's time for us to have a thoughtful conversation about this. It's my opinion that when it comes to RCV, I don't think it should be up to City Council to decide this. I think it should be up to City Council to steward this conversation, to give it an opportunity for the stakeholders to see if the City of Salem wants to change the way we vote. So this order is just to have our legal department look at the Home Rule petition. At that point, we would have a Government Services Committee meeting with a Committee of a Whole to discuss the actual language in the Home Rule petition. Again, I think we need to give this opportunity. It shouldn't be up to one counselor or our body to decide how we vote, but I think it's our responsibility to give the opportunity and see where this goes. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very much in favor of a home rule petition that would enable us to put this in front of the legislature. However, we've talked about there's two kinds of petitions, some that have rules and some that don't. And the solicitor could write something that says that it comes back and then can be put in front of the voters, and we can have conversations then. But I think since other communities have had ranked choice voting for a period of time, that it will come back favorably. I think it's more important to get the petition back, and then anything that goes on the ballot will have a separate dialogue to put something on the ballot. So I personally would rather just adopt this, and then at the time that it comes back from the legislature, then we would craft the ballot language.
Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, President. This is not going to get passed by the legislature. It's not. They don't have any desire to pass this because it was on the ballot and the state turned it down. It's exactly what we heard last year, which is why none of the home rule petitions on ranked choice voting were approved, because they have no desire to pass them. I just feel like we're putting all this work into something that is not going to see the light of day, and it pains me to say that, but there's just no, like, I don't know. I would much rather see us focus on getting them to pass the election commission, which is there, and then take up the ranked choice voting. I just feel like we're pushing this through putting all this work in front of Beth Renard to write this stuff, and the legislature's not going to pass it.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Presnowski. So when it comes to the actual language, we do have some really solidified language when it comes to ranked choice voting. There's only a few ways you can do this. The process is very formal. And the reason I want to put this through the legal department is we just want to look at the actual home rule petition to make sure that this really fits within the Salem City Charter. So I don't really agree with my fellow Ward 3 councilor, and I understand you think that it's not going to happen with the legislature, but that's not to say that it can't happen in the future, and we need to give it the opportunity. I don't think we should be the ones to say, I don't think it's going to happen, maybe we just will give up on it. I don't think we need to give up on it. I think we need to give it an opportunity, and that's what the voters and our constituents are looking for. Let's give it the opportunity and see what the legislature does with it. As we all know, things change with legislature, but I want to be optimistic about the opportunity, and that's why we're doing this.
Councilor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I'm in agreement with the Ward 7 councilor. I think that, though I may even agree with the Ward 3 councilor's sentiments about the legislature in this particular matter, I don't think that that's our job or our purview to be subjective about what the legislature may or may not do. That's the legislature has a process and a business, and they're who they are, and we can engage with them and pressure them, push them in the ways we want to for the things that matter to Salem. And I would. It is, though I do understand it is disappointing to take something off the table simply because we assume something won't happen. I think what I like about this, although I would be open to removing that last portion per Councilor Cohen's comments if he were to make a motion. I like the idea of getting this moving forward. This was one of the first things that came in front of my path when I became an elected official almost 4 years ago. There is a desire for it, at least by one body of people in Salem that have been lobbying for it. And I think that to not make some move towards progress, right, makes us the barrier. I don't want us to be the barrier to progress. I want us to be the shepherd. I think as Councilor Varela may have said, it is our job to shepherd these things forward that matter and let the legislature do what the legislature is going to do. And then if we really feel strongly about it, we just continue to resubmit it. That is the process, as frustrating as it is. So I want to remove the responsibility of this body being the barrier and get some good language in front of us that some other body in the future could continue to shepherd, because I think that it is worth the conversation. I do think it belongs in the public's hands. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I mostly agree with Councilor Morcillo, because almost every home rule petition that has gone to the legislature regarding ranked choice voting has been an enabler for the community to pass ranked choice voting in their legislature, like a city council. I think if the language for the home rule petition says that the only way it will be improved is if it goes on the ballot, we would have a better chance. I don't know for sure, but that was my point where if we're going to do this, I just think we should do a home rule petition that says that we can put this question in front of the voters.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnowski. Yes, I agree with Councilor Cohen's point to have a home rule petition, and I'd welcome some more clarity on that we're not putting as much, detail that it can come back and then we work on it. Also, would that be an easier lift for the city solicitor? Because I do respect Councilor Marcillo's point of giving more work to the city solicitor and meetings and everything for something I was wondering, I'd welcome some clarity on what our options are for a home rule petition, that then when it came back, we could do the work and have the meetings. And I do agree with your point on letting the community decide.
Councilor Burley, you've spoken twice.
I introduced it and then
and spoke and then spoke and then spoke again. Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've had a lot of these conversations. I think we probably have a draft of a home rule petition for ranked choice voting. I don't know why we don't meet in committee and have these conversations and points of clarity that we want to see in that home rule petition, which we can then provide to the city solicitor some guidance of what we're looking for versus asking her to do the guesswork up front. It seems a little backwards to me. I agree that we should have this conversation. It should be council-led. As to what we want to see in there. So I would like to make a motion that this goes to committee versus adoption this evening so we can flesh out what we will be requesting the city solicitor to do.
Second.
Councilor Stott makes a motion that this matter go to committee, seconded by Councilor Merkel. We'll vote on that first. All those in favor? All those opposed? This matter will go into committee. Thank you. Which government services? Yeah. Government services co-posted with the committee of the whole. Committee reports. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-posed with the Committee of the Whole. To move for the matter of ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to vending has considered said matter and recommend adoption for first passage as amended.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to get out of the way, the as amended portion is adding the word S to event organizer in section 28-58. So for the most part, accepting the ordinance to amend the ordinance as written. Just as a reminder, on the vending ordinance that was submitted, there was a study that was commissioned by Salem Main Streets in 2021 and 2022 that did an events audit identifying, and it came back identifying inconsistencies and inequities in our vending policy. So the goal of this ordinance generally is to remove a lot of those inconsistencies and those inequities, to move the responsibility to apply for permits to the event organizer rather than each individual vendor at an event, and to clarify the fees to ensure that the city is doing things fairly across the board.
Any further discussion? Councilor Jurzo.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. I'm going to vote in favor of this amendment because I do think it's a step in the right direction. But that said, I don't think the proposed fees go far enough. In my opinion, I think they should be higher. Taxpayers shouldn't always cover the costs of events happening in the city, especially when they require extra city resources. This is definitely a move toward more fairness, but I think there's still room to do better. Thank you.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. I'm in favor of this amendment here. No one knows more than Holly and I, who have been a vendor at the Salem Farmers Market, or were for over a decade. The process was not fair, it was cumbersome, and it could have been easy because when it comes to, let's just talk about the farmers market, Salem Main Streets, they handled everything and facilitated everything. But when it came to the health permit, everything was individualized within every applicant. That created a headache and a barrier for a lot of businesses here in the city of Salem. This is just a simple cleanup. I do disagree with the Ward 1 councilor that there should be an added fee to this. This is really not about adding more resources to the city. It's just about cleaning up the language that our planning department and our Salem Main Streets have been trying to clean up for probably around 6 to 7 years now.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of adopting
The amendment first and then so just as a reminder to all, the amendment is just the addition of the letter S to event organizer in section 28-58.
On Councilor Hapro's motion to approve the amendment, all those in favor? All those opposed? None. On the adoption, recommendation for first passage as amended. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports? Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem and City Council, June 12th, 2025. Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to the rates for the use of water. C46, Section 66, has considered said matter and recommend adoption.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the adoption of the recommendation, under discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. These water rates went up by 9% this year. It takes residential rates per 100 cubic feet to 482, non-residential to 653, and the minimum rate to 4420 per 1,000 cubic feet.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On the matter of the rates of water use, as stated by Councilor Hapworth, for first passage, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports, Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-posted the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to sewer use charges. Chapter 46, Section 230 is considered said matter and would recommend adoption.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the discussion on the adoption of the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an increase of 3%, so water and sewer together are a combined 5% increase. This year, takes residential per 100 cubic feet to 828, non-residential to 1255. Non-residential per 100 cubic feet up to 25,000 cubic feet to 1255, and then non-residential 100 cubic feet for 25,000 cubic feet and greater 1607 per month.
Any further discussion? Councilor Hapworth's recommendation for the adoption of first passage for the sewer rates. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carries.
Point of order. Do these require two passages?
First.
No, they do not. I don't think they do.
So not first.
So move for adoption.
Move for adoption. No first passage, no second passage. Both the water and the sewer. Further committee reports, Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025. Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole. To whom is referred the matter of ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to solid waste management, trash fees, Chapter 36, Section 36.6 has considered said matter and recommend adoption.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the adoption, on the recommendation of adoption, under discussion.
Okay, so this takes, thank you, Mr. President. This is an 18% increase, which is part of the reason we wanted to have the discussion committee at 6 o'clock, thinking we may have needed more time to talk about it. Just for clarity, 77% of the fee that's paid for our trash is what we call a subsidy, which is just picked up by the general fund of taxpayers. 23% is paid by the ratepayers here. So of this 23%, these are the rates that we're setting here. So it's $25.79 for non-owner occupied, with a maximum of $163.85 and $37.41 for commercial properties.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor Hapworth's recommendation relative to solid waste management increases. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports. Your turn, Councilor Cohen.
I was going to let Councilor Hapworth keep going. City of Salem and City Council, June 16, 2025. June 12, 2025. The Committee on Public Health, Safety, and Environment, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of an ordinance relative to fines for failing to remove snow and ice from sidewalks, has considered said matter and would recommend adoption for first passage.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? Very good. On the recommended adoption, under discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. So it's basically doubling the fines. The ability for the council to do this was based on Law 40U, which unfortunately does not allow us to differentiate between commercial and residential. So that's why there's no differentiation in the ordinance. Some really good things came from our discussion. For example, our building commissioner has identified, I'll just say, bad actors, and that department will be proactive in going out and making sure, as a first pass. Also, these fines are daily, can be daily, so it's not just one fine. In addition, Councilor Harvey had brought up some inconsistency about addressing some of the parks, and our DPS director assured us that they do have like a hierarchy. They start with schools and busy intersection, areas, but that the parks will be a priority, and the city will continue to look for people who would be able to help those, such as some property owners who may not be able to do this on their own, to be able to help them as we used to do in the past. And so might reach out to like the ROTC or other groups to see if they could help residents on request. Thank you.
Any further discussion? On Councilor Cohen's recommendation of doubling the fines for snow and ice removal from the sidewalks. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports, Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025. The Committee on Public Health, Safety, and Environment, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to traffic, Section 11, bus stops, Section 51 and 51B, Article V, parking prohibited, has considered said matter and would recommend that this is referred back to the Public Health, Safety, and Environment Committee.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the recommendation, on the discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. So basically, there was a few things that there seemed to be a consensus on. One is we're going to expand the length of the bus parking, these are all for October, on Canal Street from 220 to over 500 feet. There will be a new drop-off spot on New Derby Street in front of the bank near Riley Plaza. And then there was a discussion about several in Ward 2, Washington Square South, West, and actually Bridge Street. But because we need to really, Councilor Hapworth reached out to some city staff, and we only got some of the feedback sometime today. And I think it would be really instructive for us to have another meeting and really define some of these things. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank Councilor Cohen for his patience in that meeting there. I think at one point we were measuring corners by walking in one direction 100 feet and then walking back a certain number of feet again. And then we had, I think, a quadruple negative that we were voting on. So there was a lot that was happening there. I think at the end of the day, the intention of what we were bringing forward was to ensure that buses had sufficient temporary drop zones, and that it wasn't causing pedestrian safety issues in the process. I think what we ended up voting on was we ended up creating a permanent 10-minute drop zone outside of October, which wasn't the intention of the committee. So we got that feedback from Lieutenant Tucker I think we saw that feedback about 10 minutes before this meeting started. So I think in order to digest that, I appreciate Councilor Cohen leaving that in committee so we can have that discussion again.
Any further discussion on Councilor Cohen's motion that this matter be remained in Committee of Public Health, Safety, and Environment, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole? All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports? Take a deep breath, Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. City Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of bond order in the amount of $10,026,020 for the fiscal year 2026 General Fund Capital Improvement Program in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, has considered said matter and recommend adoption.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the matter of the adoption, under discussion.
No discussion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Was it?
Okay, sorry. Move for adoption by roll call vote.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt,
Yes.
Council Varela,
Yes.
Council Stott,
Yes.
Council Marcillo,
Yes.
Council Merkel,
Yes.
Council Gerslow,
Yes.
Council Hapworth,
Yes.
Council Davis,
Yes.
Council Cohen,
Yes.
and Council Presnowski.
Yes. On the bond order matter of $10 million, $26,020 for the fiscal year of 2026. We have 10 voting in favor and 1 absent. The matter carries. Further committee reports. Council Merkel.
City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of bond order in the amount of $9,450,000 for the fiscal year 2026 Water Sewer Capital Improvement Program in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7 and 8, has considered the matter and would recommend adoption by roll call vote.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the adoption of the recommendation, under discussion.
No discussion.
Any further discussion? I believe, again, this is because it's a bond order, it is a vote by roll call.
Yes.
So, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt,
Yes.
Council Varela,
Yes.
Council Stott,
Yes.
Council Marcillo,
Yes.
Council Merkel,
Yes.
Council Gerslow,
Yes.
Council Harvey. Oh, excuse me. Council Hapworth.
Yes.
Council Davis.
Yes.
Council Cohen.
Yes.
Council Presnowski.
Yes. On the matter of the bond order for $9,450,000 for fiscal year 2026 Water Sewer Capital Improvement Program, 10 in the favor, none, no negatives, 1 absent. Matter carried. For the committee reports, we have Council Merkel.
City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of appropriation in the amended amount of $5,677,457 for fiscal year 2026 short-term capital improvement plan, has considered said matter and would recommend adoption as amended.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the recommendation of adoption, under discussion.
Thank you. This was amended in our committee meeting to strike $26,000 amount for the police plate readers, as this was already funded in the police's operating budget. So this lowered the total of this by $26,000.
Any further discussion? Councilor Merkel's motion that we adopt as amended, the amount of $5,703,457. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. For the committee reports, Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, City of... Should we vote on that?
I thought,
No, just he said the dollar amount.
okay, let's rewind. On the acceptance of Councilor Merkel's recommendation to adopt $5,677,457 short-term capital improvement plan. All those in favor? All those are opposed? We have the right figure. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Merkel, further committee reports.
City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, proposed to the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of establishing revolving funds for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $3,135,000 in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E, 1, 2, has considered said matter and would recommend adoption.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? On the adoption of the recommendation on the discussion, Council?
No discussion.
On Councilor Merkel's motion to adopt the recommendation of establishing revolving funds of $3,135,000. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. For the committee reports, Councilor Merkel.
City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of appropriation in the amount of $750,000 transferred from free cash fund to fund the fiscal year 2026 capital improvement plan projects. Has considered said matter and would recommend adoption.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the adoption of the recommendation on the discussion.
No discussion.
On Councilor Merkel's recommendation, adopting $750,000 transferred from free cash to the capital improvement plan projects. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports, Councilor Merkel.
City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of appropriation in the amount of $689,938 from retained earnings from the water sewer funds to fiscal year 2026 water and sewer capital improvement funds, has considered said matter and would recommend adoption as amended.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? On the adoption of the recommendation on the discussion?
Thank you. There was a vote taken to change the written numerical typo on the order from May 8th. The numerical total has always been correct. This was in the written amount total. So there was a correction on that.
Any further discussion on Councilor Merkel's motion to adopt a recommendation of appropriation of $689,938 from the retained earnings from the water sewer funds to the fiscal year 2026 water and sewer capital improvement funds? All those in favor?
As amended?
As amended.
Thanks.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports. Merkel.
City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of appropriation in the amount of $200,000 for a short-term rental housing and infrastructure fund to be expanded for traffic calming pilot program for fiscal year 2026 capital improvement program, has considered said matter and would recommend adoption.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the adoption of the recommendation, on the discussion.
No discussion.
On Councilor Merkel's motion to adopt a recommendation of $200,000 for the short-term rental housing infrastructure fund to the traffic calming pilot program for fiscal year 2026. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it carries. Further committee reports. Councilor Merkel.
City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of appropriation in the amount of $48,718 from receipts reserved for appropriation to the Parks and Rec Golf Course for John Deere Pro Gator for fiscal year 2026 capital improvement plan, has considered said matter and would recommend adoption.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the adoption of the recommendation, discussion?
No discussion.
Council Merkel's motion to adopt the recommendation of $48,718 from receipts reserved for appropriation to the Park and Rec Golf Course for a John Deere Pro Gator machine for the fiscal year of 2026. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Other committee reports, Council Merkel?
City of Salem and City Council, June 12, 2025, Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole. 2 was referred the matter of the letter from the mayor submitting the fiscal year 2026 operating budget, the capital plan and the capital improvement plan, and the 5-year capital improvement plan, has considered said matter and would recommend adoption as amended.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? On the adoption of the recommendation, on the discussion.
No discussion.
Council Merkel's motion to adopt the recommendation. Refer the matter by a letter from the mayor submitting Salem's fiscal year 2026 operating budget and 5-year capital improvement plan. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Other committee reports? Council Merkel.
Okay.
Okay.
The budget report for fiscal year 2026. All of the following are for this fiscal year 2026, and here we go. The mayor's department total of $763,485. The city council department total of $278,957. The city clerk department total of $398,026. Elections and registration department total of $311,368. The assessors department total of $516,006. The collectors department total in the amount of $306,897. The finance department total of $625,242. The purchasing department's total of $265,284. The treasurer's department total in the amount of $41,962,083. The transportation department total of $1,778,480. The data processing, which is IT and GIS, department total of $1,745,993. The solicitor licensing department total of $634,978. Human resources department total of $21,337,148. The fire department total of $11,347,151. The police department total of $14,592,617. The harbor master department total in the amount of $455,420. The public property, building, plumbing, gas inspections department total of $1,674,848. The Board of Health Department total of $780,753. The Electrical Department total of $1,015,230. The Planning Department total in the amount of $1,282,378. The Resiliency and Sustainability Department total in the amount of $270,653. The Public Services Department total of $4,413,602. Engineering Department total in the amount of $139,734. Recreation and Community Services Department total of $2,928,212. Council on Aging Department total of $539,780. The Library Department total in the amount of $1,688,543. The Veterans Agent Department total of $570,809. The School Department Budget, Administration, and Expenses total in the amount of $78,173,061, and a budget transfers out of general fund for $400,000. Total general fund for fiscal year 2026, $191,196,738. And I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption by roll call vote. On the discussion,
No discussion.
on Councilor,
Mr. President.
but there's more.
All right, fine, I'll save it. One thing really gotta keep it, okay?
On Councilor Merkel's motion, that we adopt the total general fund for the fiscal year of 2026 in the amount of $191,196,738. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Watson-Felt,
Yes, and congrats, Counselor Merkel.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Stott,
Yes.
Counselor Masillo,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor Jerslow,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Cohen,
Yes.
Counselor Presnowski.
Yes. On the total for the general fund for the fiscal year of 2026, we have 10 in the affirmative, none in the negative, and 1 absent. The matter carries. Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. I move for immediate reconsideration in the hopes it does not prevail.
Councilor Merkel moves for immediate reconsideration. All those in favor? All those opposed? Opposed.
Opposed.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. The Sewer Enterprise Fund, fiscal year 2026, for a total of $8,858,745, and I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption by roll call vote. On the discussion?
No discussion.
Any further discussion? On Councilor Merkel's motion, the adoption of $8,858,745. Total sewer enterprise. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Stott,
Yes.
Counselor Marcillo,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor Jerslow,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Cohen, and Counselor Presnowski.
Yes. On the total sewer enterprise fund, we have 10 in the affirmative, none in the negative, and 1 absent. Matter carries. Councilor Merkel?
I move for immediate reconsideration in the hopes it does not prevail.
Councilor Merkel moves for immediate reconsideration in hopes that it does not prevail. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Opposed.
That does not carry. Councilor Merkel?
Budget report continued. The Water Enterprise Fund total in the amount of $7,263,746. And I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing none. The amount of $7,263,746. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Stott,
Yes.
Counselor Marcillo,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor Jerslow,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Cohen, Counselor Presnowski.
Yes. The budget matter involving the total for the enterprise, Water Enterprise Fund, we have 10 in the affirmative, none in the negative, 1 absent. Matter carries. Councilor Merkel.
I move for immediate reconsideration in the hopes it does not prevail.
Councilor Merkel moves for immediate reconsideration. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Opposed.
That does not carry. Councilor Merkel.
Yes, the budget report continued. The Trash Enterprise Fund in the total of $5,007,823. And I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption by a roll call vote on the discussion.
No discussion.
On Councilor Merkel's motion to approve $5,007,823 for the enterprise fund for the trash enterprise fund for the fiscal year of 2026. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt,
Yes.
Council Varela,
Yes.
Council Stott,
Yes.
Council Marcillo,
Yes.
Council Merkel,
Yes.
Council Jerslow,
Yes.
Council Hapworth,
Yes.
Council Davis,
Yes.
Council Cohen, Council Presnowski.
Yes. The total enterprise fund of 2026 as stated, we have 10 affirmative, no negatives, 1 absent. Matter carries.
I move for immediate reconsideration in the hopes it does not prevail.
Councilor Merkel moves for immediate reconsideration. All those in favor? All those opposed? Opposed. Matter is denied. Councilor Merkel.
The PEG Access Fund for the solicitor's licensing in the amount of $691,250. And I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption by roll call vote on the discussion.
No discussion.
On discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt,
Yep.
Council Varela,
Yes.
Council Stott,
Yes.
Council Marcillo.
Yes.
Council Merkel,
Yes.
Council Jerslow,
Yes.
Council Hapworth,
Yes.
Council Davis,
Yes.
Council Cohen, Council Presnowski.
Yes. Oops. On the matter of the PEG excess fund for the fiscal year of 2026, $691,250. We have 10 in the affirmative, none in the negative, and 1 absent. The matter carries.
I move for immediate reconsideration in hopes it does not prevail.
Councilor Merkel moves for immediate reconsideration. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. Matter denied. Councilor Merkel.
As the budget report continues, total enterprise funds for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $21,821,564. And I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption by a roll call vote on the discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt,
Yes.
Council Varela,
Yes.
Council Stott,
Yes.
Council Marcillo,
Yes.
Council Merkel,
Yes.
Council Jerslow,
Yes.
Council Hapworth,
Yes.
Council Davis,
Yes.
Council Cohen, and Council Presnowski.
Yes. On the matter of the total enterprise fund funding for the year 2026 for $21,564. We have 10 yeas, none in the negative, and 1 absent. That carries. Councilor Merkel.
I move for immediate reconsideration in the hopes it does not prevail.
Councilor Merkel moves for immediate reconsideration. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Denied. Councilor Merkel.
The budget report for the total operating budget for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $213,018,302. And I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption by a roll call vote on the discussion.
I would like to thank Anna Friedman, our finance director, and her team for all the incredible amount of hard work that went into the proposed budget. Just really, it's always a heavy lift and an incredible job done. And we couldn't do it without you and your team. So incredibly grateful for the work that went into this, and to my A&F committee as well for their work. Appreciate everyone.
Councilor Stott?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to reiterate the thanks to Ms. Friedman and wish her best of luck in her ongoing adventures, which I think are going to be actual adventures this summer, so I'm very jealous. But thank you for guiding us through all of these years, and appreciate you staying on to get us through this last budget season as well. We definitely could not have done this without you, and I have learned so much from you and truly appreciate that. And I'd also like to extend a thank to the chair of ANF. Councillor Merkel really has led us, guided us through this whole process, and I know that the amount of work that is required to do that is just daunting. I don't want to do it. So it's like an insane amount of effort. And I appreciate the diligence that you put into it to make sure that we are all aware of what's going on and really truly understand the process. So thank you so much for that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Councilor Merkel's motion to adopt a total operating budget for fiscal year 2026. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Feld.
Yes, and huge congrats again.
Council Varela.
Yes.
Council Stott.
Yes.
Council Marcillo.
Yes.
Council Merkel.
Yes.
Council Jerslow.
Yes.
Council Hapworth.
Yes.
Council Davis.
Yes.
Council Cohen. And Council Presnowski.
Yes. Adopting the total operation budget for the fiscal year of 2026 in the amount of $213 million, $18,302. We have 10 in the affirmative, none in the negative, and 1 absent. The matter carries. Thank you very much, Anna Freeman, for all the work that you've done. Your tutelage and passing on has been truly, genuinely noted by all. And Alice, Councilor Merkel, put in the yeoman's amount of work into this every day of the budget. This took up a lot of time. We all know it. I don't think the public understands how much work you've put into it, but hats off to you for all the work that you've done. So thank you. The matter carries.
Moved for immediate reconsideration in the hopes that it does not prevail.
Councilor Merkel moves for immediate reconsideration. All those in favor? All those opposed? Very good. All right. We are now moving over to page, we've already addressed the next 2 matters, so we are page 23. Petitions. Councilor Hapworth.
We have a petition from Peter Vallis regarding parcel ID number 47-0001-907 on Tinker's Island.
Councilor Hapworth.
All right, we have a good old-fashioned Tinker's Island drama here. Sorry, I move to refer to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor Hapworth moves to move it to the ordinances, licenses, and legal. It's under discussion.
Sorry, I was so excited to talk about this. I'm just kidding. I'm not. So it is a Tinker's Island property dispute here, but in order to avoid putting myself in the middle of it, I'm not going to try to summarize it here, but it will go into committee. And we'll take it up at some point in committee.
Further discussion. Councilor Hapworth's motion to move this matter into the Committee of Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have a request from Historic New England regarding their annual Phillips Car Meet on August 10th, 2025, in the use of Chestnut Street from Flynn Street to Cambridge Street from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. with no rain date.
Councilor Watson-Feld.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move this be granted.
So Watson-Feld moves that it be granted. Under discussion.
Brief discussion. Thank you, Mr. President. Always a wonderful event. The annual Phillips Car Meet is an opportunity to also investigate and get access to the Phillips Museum House in its grounds. So I highly recommend folks who are interested to just wander on down there. If you've never stood in front of that property and taken a look at it, it's one of Salem's great preservation stories, and it's a wonderful wonderful opportunity to just take all of it in its grandeur. And the Phillips House has done wonderful interpretation opportunities and events in the past. So just kudos to this organization for continuing these fun events and continuing to make sure that, even being as large as historic New England is, that they take care of all of these properties and all of these places and all of these cities and towns with care and support for our community. So good luck to them. Hope they have a great day. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Councilor Watson Phelps move that the annual Phillips Car Meet on August 10th be granted. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have a request from the North Shore YMCA to hold a road race, North Shore Run Fest, in use of city streets on September 7th, 2025 at 9 a.m.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move this be granted.
Councilor Hapworth moves. To be granted under discussion.
No discussion from me unless the Ward 1 or Ward 5 councilors have any issues with the route.
Any further discussion? Seeing none on Councilor Hapworth's motion that the YMCA be granted to hold a road race on September 7th, 2025 at 9 a.m. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Further petitions.
We have a request from the residents of Beckford Street to hold a block party on Beckford Street Square, the intersection of Federal and Beckford Streets, on June 21st, 2025, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., with a rain date of June 22nd, 2025.
Councilor Watson-Feld.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move this be granted.
Councilor Watson-Feld moves that this be granted under discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Briefly, this is a great neighborhood event, and there's often, kids running around. It's important to close this intersection so that these kids and neighborhood folks can run around safely and set up their tables and everything. So appreciate the community's patience with closing down this intersection briefly and navigating around it. But it's always a great time. So thanks hopefully for everyone's support.
Any further discussion on Councilor Watson-Feld's motion that the Beckford Street block party be granted? All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have a request from Laura Assad from the Salem Public Schools to hold a back-to-school block party from Salem Street to Chase Street in 1 Pioneer Terrace on August 20th, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. with a rain date of August 21st, 2025.
I believe this belongs to Councilor Cohen.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I move that this is granted.
Councilor Cohen asks that this be granted under discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to read a letter from Laura Assad of the school department. I'm going to try go really fast. Dear Mayor Pangalo, Madam City Clerk, and esteemed members of the Salem City Council, that's all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to relay this message and for your support of the Salem Public Schools and the Back to School Block Party. I'm proud to share that this event marks the 4th annual Back to School event organized by the Salem Public Schools Family Engagement Team. Every year we strive to serve public school students and their families and have resources available for all ages for the larger Salem community. This event has provided an opportunity to bring the entire community together to get students and families excited to return to school, as it brings community organizations, small businesses, city and school departments, board members, community leaders, faith-based organizations, donors, volunteers, amongst many others. Our goal is to continue to provide an event that is safe and accessible, and the main reason why we're requesting your support and approval for the block party application you have in front of you. Last year, people of all ages enjoyed the event freely without worry of traffic coming through the street, and the organizations having the opportunity to connect with residents. Lastly, I'd like to take this opportunity to formally invite you to attend the event and welcome you to reach out to me directly if you have any questions. Thank you, Laura Sutton.
Any further discussion, Councilor Watson-Feld?
Thank you, President Brzezinski. Just my personal thanks to Laura for all she's done on this event and how it's grown over the last number of years. And it's full of activities, and she's not wrong when she says folks of all kinds of ages and experiences and parts of our community come and celebrate at this wonderful occasion, even if they aren't just for the kids. The kids love it. It's a great opportunity to bring them to a part of the city not all of them generally come to, and oftentimes Derby the dog is there. It's just a wonderful opportunity, great community event, and she's done wonders with it. So, excuse me, just my personal thanks as a public school mom.
And you can see the great new Palmer Cove Park if you're not able to make it this Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura Assad, too. She's a gem for this city. A lot of people don't realize that she is an unsung hero. On Councilor Cohen's motion that the move be granted to hold a block party on Salem Street and Chase Street on August 21st. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following 13 public guides.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move this be granted.
Councilor Hapworth moves that they be granted under discussion.
No discussion.
On Councilor Hapworth's motion that these licenses be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following 7 claims.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor Hapworth moves that the claims be moved to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Unfinished business.
We have a second passage of an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to regulating the maintenance of abandoned and foreclosing residential and commercial properties.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote.
Councilor Hapworth moves for second passage by roll call vote. On the discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt?
Yes.
Council Varela?
Yes.
Council Stott?
Yes.
Council Marcillo?
Yes.
Council Merkel?
Yes.
Council Jerslow?
Yes.
Council Hapworth?
Yes.
Council Davis?
Yes.
Council Cohen?
Yes.
And Council Presnewski.
Yes. On the matter of the second passage of an ordinance relative to regulating the maintenance of abandoned and foreclosed residential properties, second passage. We have 10 yeas, no nays, 1 absent. Carries. Further petitions.
We have a second passage for a zoning ordinance adopted as amended relative to ADUs, accessory dwelling units.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote.
Hapworth moves for second passage by roll call vote. On the discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt?
Yes.
Council Varela?
Yes.
Councilor Stott?
Yes.
Council Marcillo?
Yes.
Council Merkel?
Yes.
Council Jerslow?
No.
Council Hapworth?
Yes.
Council Davis?
Yes.
Council Cohen? And Council Presnewski.
Yes. On the matter of the second passage of the zoning ordinance adopted as amended relative to accessory dwelling units, we have 9 yeas, 1 in the negative, and 1 absent. That carries. Further petitions.
Unfinished.
Unfinished business.
We have a second passage for an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to zoning and Halloween parking overlay.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote.
Councilor Hapworth moves for second passage by roll call vote. On the discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt?
No.
Council Varela?
Yes.
Council Stott?
Yes.
Council Marcillo?
Yes.
Council Merkel?
Yes.
Council Jerslow?
Yes.
Council Hapworth?
No.
Council Davis?
Yes.
Council Cohen? Yes. And Council Presnewski.
Yes. On the matter of the second passage of an ordinance to amend the ordinance relative to the zoning of the Halloween parking overlay, we have 8 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, and 1 absent. The matter carries. I believe the last piece of order was done earlier. Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I would also like to extend my gratitude to Councilor Merkel for the incredible job she did on the budget this year, second year in a row, actually. The meetings were so well organized. and just very well done. And I don't think I've ever gotten notes beforehand from the committee chair on A&F meetings, and they were very helpful. So there you go. And thanks also absolutely to the finance director. And with that, a motion to adjourn.
Councilor Marcelo moves for adjournment. All those in favor? We are adjourned.